Home and away spoilers. Perri and Tane say an emotional goodbye. Next week on Home and Away in the UK, as Perri makes a big decision about his future, Tane faces a heartbreaking goodbye. Perri has a big decision to make as he looks to a bright new future, after being found not guilty over the death of his abusive father Carl. The 18-year-old had spent much of his life in fear of his father, who he'd lived alone with following the apparent death of his mother Kaia. Carl had forced Perri into a life of crime during his teen years, for which he spent time in juvenile detention. Perri thought he had a chance at a fresh start when Tane took him under his wing, after attending his youth program at the gym, but Carl had other ideas. Relentlessly pursuing Perri in spite of a restraining order, Carl's attempts to force Perri into another job resulted in a physical altercation between the pair. In late November, as Carl held Perri over the edge of the pool and forced his head underwater, Perri's attempts to defend himself ended with Carl dead in the water. Perri's decision to flee the scene before the police responded to Tane's call meant that his defense was shaky at best, with no witnesses or evidence to say that Carl had ever abused Perri. Lawyer Jane warned Perri and Tane that they should prepare for the worst. However, Jane was able to pull out a last-minute trump card when she called a witness who had only just arrived in the nick of time from New Zealand. Perri was staggered when his long-thought-dead mum Kaia then walked into the courtroom. Kaia's testimony, which detailed that Carl had threatened to kill Perri unless she left the family home all those years ago, was enough to sway the jury in Perri's favor, finding him not guilty of the charges. But when Kaia tried to approach a confused Perri, she was met with hostility as he told her to stay away from him. Although Tane later convinced Perri to meet with Kaia, Perri couldn't get over the fact that his mum had abandoned him despite knowing what Carl was like. He suggested she go back to New Zealand and forget he existed. Next week, a frustrated Perri goes over the many unanswered questions he has. What kind of mother leaves their child behind? Tane points out that there's only one person who can answer that, and this could be his only opportunity to hear her story. The next morning, having agreed to meet up with Kaia again, Perri takes out the wooden box of keepsakes that had been retrieved from his family home, claiming he no longer wants it and figuring Kaia could take it. When Kaia sees the mini basketball within the box, she recalls gifting it to Perri on his second birthday. As the two remember a shared memory from that time, there's a glimmer of hope for Kaia. She goes on to admit that she returned a couple of times after she'd left to see Perri play basketball. Witnessing Perri at a time he was happiest, she had believed that he was doing okay, and feeling it was too painful to be so close yet so far from her son, she decided to return to NZ. Kaia knows now that she was wrong to do so, and had no idea that Perri had believed she was dead until Jane had told her. Perri recalls the day that Carl told him his mum had gone, shrugging it off and telling Perri she'd died in a car accident. It all cuts deep for Perri, and the anger resurfaces as he points out that all he'd heard from Kaia is how hard it was for her to leave. "I can promise you that it was much harder to stay," Perri states as he begins to break down. "Go to hell." Hoping they can still work things out, Tane asks Kaia to stick around in the bay whilst the dust settles. A few wise words from Theo convince Perri that he should at least be willing to give his mum a chance. But he still needs time to get his head around it all. Later in the week, Kaia visits Perri to tell him that she doesn't want to cause him any further upset, so is going to head back to New Zealand. Perri is dismissive as he bluntly says goodbye, but Tane knows that could be Perri's last chance. Is this really what he wants? Perri rushes out and calls after Kaia, inviting her to dinner that evening with Tane and Harper at Salt. During the meal, Perri admits he didn't want their last encounter to end that way, and he needed to properly thank her for supporting him in court. Touched, Kaia says she's proud of him and glad to see him building a life for himself, and offers to leave her contact details in case he ever wants to call or visit. Overwhelmed by emotion, Perri steps outside. When Tane follows, Perri expresses his gratitude for all Tane has done, but he confesses that he feels drawn to leave with Kaia. Kaia is overjoyed when Perri subsequently tells her that he's coming with her. But as the two hug, Harper can see that Tane has reservations. The next day, it's time for Tane and Harper to bid an emotional farewell to Perri. Tane worries whether it's all moving a bit too fast, but Perri assures him that he's got this. Perri admits that he's sorry that he won't be around to see them become parents, but Harper assures him that they'll all keep in touch. After they wave Perri and Kaia off, they find a parting gift from Perri waiting back in the house. and Harper reflects on how good a dad Tane will be to their own child. Caught up in the moment, Tane leans in for a kiss. Could this be a whole new beginning for the pair?
Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more movie spoilers next week. Goodbye and see you again.